Black, bro. My undies are black.
They're the ones that I gave you. What was I going to say? Flip. You just
threw you off, eh?
Hugely honoured to have one of my close friends, Jay Rerekura, here with us today. I did a little bit of digging around on the World Wide Web, Jay, and I was trying to find some dirt on you, but couldn't find any. But instead, I found a little bit of a description of what you do. And I got this off the Thrive website, and it says that you are the impact coach, the coolest member of Thrive. You're forged from clay on the Whānau Ora riverbanks, and you're labelled, or you're named the Punisher. So just tell us, where did this description of you being heroic come from?
Yeah, no, that was actually written in stone, bro. I found it one day when I was walking around by the river. Yep. But no, just pretty much, it is my origin story. So I'm born and bred on the banks of the Whanganui River, nice, and also hail from Ngārauru and Taranaki over in Ngārua Inerangi. And also, it probably doesn't say that in my bio, but have connections over to a little island called Mauke, which is in the Cook Islands. So yeah, that's who I am, that's where I'm from, and yeah, that's a little bit of the origin story, but the rest is yet to come.
Bro, that's cool. I can't wait till they write a script, or they probably have it in process at the moment, and they're going to shoot a feature film on it in the next few months. On it. Yeah, thought he would be. So just, I mean, you work at Thrive and you work at Tukua Storytelling Studio. So just tell us about just a quick kind of description of what you do there and how that impacts the Whanganui community.
Yeah, I guess just being a part of the team down at Thrive is really awesome. I've always had a lot of respect for Nicola Patrick, who has been one of the driving forces behind the work that Thrive does around business startup, around social enterprise support, and just being just a good person in our community. So she's someone that I met a handful of years ago and got to know her through the Thrive Mahi and through some of the work that she was doing when she was campaigning with the Green Party. So a lot of respect for that lady. She's doing some great mahi in our community. She's a great leader, and happy to jump on board the waka and help row for the kaupapa.
Cool. And just tell us about Tukua as well.
Tukua Storytelling Studio is our attempt, me and my friends, Julie Hedewini, Kitty Wilson and Piriira Tameana. We've all joined forces and looked at how we can help particularly Māori organisations communicate our stories out to our people. So there's a lot of good mahi that happens around Whanganui and the wider region. We're focused on uri o te kāui maunga, so anyone that is a descendant from the mountain clan. We're keen to tell those stories and just spread the word about good kaupapa that are happening around the place. Yeah.
Very cool, bro. Okay, we'll jump into I guess some of the more heartfelt kōrero around wellbeing, and the reason for the Impact Collective is to kind of give a holistic view of wellbeing on our community. And I know you, Jay, you've been involved in the community for a long time. You've worked in the youth space, the drug and alcohol space. You worked in the council space, and I imagine you've seen a lot of things happen within our community, and probably have a lot of insights and knowledge on what is a healthy or community with positive well-being. But before we dive into that, I know that you have a huge heart, and I'd rather, instead of talking about the community at the moment, is I guess what's important to you? What does well-being mean to you?
Coming into the conversation a little bit cold, so I might warm up to this one, but just in terms of well-being for me, what does that look like? And I guess boiling it right down, happiness. Are you happy? That's probably the question that you want to ask yourself, and if the answer isn't a resounding yes, then maybe somewhere in your well-being something's not quite right. So happiness plays a big part of it, and I mean like genuine true happiness, not just like for the moment I've got this fleeting sense of being happy because I ate some chocolate or but actual deep down in your bones, are you happy with life? Are you satisfied? Are you, all these things? And I think that, in a nutshell, is well-being for me. Yeah.
That's really interesting, bro. Like, asking yourself the brutal question, are you happy? I guess I want to kind of untangle that a little bit, and just kind of talk about what questions would you ask yourself to come to a conclusion of yes or no?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it's hard. It's not an easy thing. Like, even now at the age I am, 21, the asking myself that question isn't easy to answer. Yeah. Like sometimes I struggle to identify like how I'm feeling at different moments and different points in my life. But if you sit with yourself and ask those questions without all the noise around you, sometimes you'll get to an answer. But what am I babbling on about? It's not straightforward. Like sometimes happiness doesn't show itself in ways that are identifiably happy. Sometimes it identifies itself in other ways, or it manifests itself in how your physical health is, or how you interact with your whānau and those kinds of things. Sometimes it manifests itself in how your wairua feels. It's a good question to ask yourself in all aspects of your life, and just understanding that you can't compartmentalize your life. You're a whole. And sometimes we try to do that. We try to go, cool, there's this section of my life, and that's all good, and that has nothing to do with this section of my life. But actually everything just is interwoven, if I can make my fat fingers interweave themselves. It's all those things. It's a complicated
and there's like aspects. I mean, there might be like facades of happiness. Like, people might think happiness is, having everything you need, or that everything is going sweet. But sometimes happiness is a result of struggle as well. You could, kind of go through something that's like, let's take physical health for example. You go to the gym, and it's first time you go, you nearly die, but then afterwards you kind of get those happy feelings. So it's also identifying, I guess. And I'd love you to comment on this, but sometimes happiness, it might not feel like the fantasy of happiness, I guess, in the moment. It might be just like a moment of discomfort that potentially could lead to growth and happiness. Like, have you had those scenarios in your life? Yeah,
as soon as I answered that question before, straight away my head went to actually struggle as as part of it too. Like you don't grow if you don't stretch yourself, and stretching yourself is hard sometimes. So learning, growth, development, struggle, all interchangeable, and it's part of all that. And I guess that's what I was kind of getting at when I said happiness doesn't always show itself in obvious ways. And you can be very happy on the outside, jovial, smiling all the time, making jokes at everything, but on the inside you could be dealing with some stuff.
Hard out. This might be too personal, and feel free to
black, bro. My undies are black.
Are they the ones that I gave you? I was going to say, Flip, you just
threw you off, eh?
You did throw me off. I liked how you said, you can't compartmentalize it. It's, it's almost like the whole. And I guess what I wanted to talk about today is what I think is a holistic approach to it, is the Whare Tapa Whā model. How it's it's spiritual, it is physical, it is social, it is like all those aspects coming together to make the whole. I just want to go on a bit of a side tangent. You're training for a boxing event at the moment.
Yes.
Tell us, I know we've been talking about struggle, we're talking about, happiness and growth. Like, how's that journey been for you on a physical level?
Yeah, physically it's been fine. Like, physically you go out, you do the work, you run your body down, and you get bashed up and all of that. That's fine. Like, I can deal with that sort of stuff. But to be honest, the hardest part of that journey was saying yes. And I'm a lover, not a fighter. So, you know, I
Amen.
never really wanted to get in the ring and fight another person.
Yeah.
But I enjoy rough and tumble. Like, I'm like every other guy. You know, I've always loved, you know, rough and tumble. But a fight's different. Like, that's, you know, you're jumping into a space where your objective is to hurt the other guy. And yeah, I kind of struggled with it, and for years I said to people I'd never do it. I knew that it was coming, and people would ask, and you know, it was inevitable. But I never thought I'd say yes. And if I did say yes, I knew I'd say yes because there's a good kaupapa behind it.
Yep.
So I always said to people that hit me up, if there's a good kaupapa, I'm keen to tautoko. I'll put myself on the line and
Awesome.
you know, do all those things to support the kaupapa. And actually I said yes before I found out what the kaupapa was, because when I got asked, the kaupapa for me was, you know, to have a look at my own physical health and well-being.
Yep.
And to, you know, try to strengthen some of the weaknesses there. And I thought, if I can't do that for myself, like if that's not a worthy enough kaupapa, what is? You know, you got to look after number one, otherwise you're no good to anybody else. So, yeah.
That's awesome, man. Kind of raises the aspect of honesty, I think. Like really honestly looking at yourself and almost being vulnerable in that honesty as well, and being truthful to yourself. You know, where am I on this spectrum? And I know we're talking about the physical aspect, but there's so many other aspects to actually be honest about with yourself as well. There's the mental side, the emotional, the relationship side, the physical side. Did you find that, you know, even through this journey, it was a mental kind of exercise too? Like, was there mental vulnerability?
Yeah, fully. It was definitely a mental exercise for me at the start. Just, you know, like, I don't care about, you know, I'm not too fussed about getting knocked out or, you know, hurt or anything like that. But I am, I was worried about being embarrassed. Like, you put yourself in front of all of your friends and your family and a whole bunch of strangers to potentially, you know, lose in front of lots of people. Like, that's the scary thing for me. Like, not so much the losing, but to be embarrassed. So, yeah, like opening myself up to that kind of vulnerability and being able to, yeah, like flirt with failure and those kinds of things. Like, that's the hard part for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
What was the feeling like? Because I imagine like there would be a lot of like resistance to saying yes, and a lot of I know we're talking about boxing, but I'm going to segue into something else. But there's a lot of like, I guess, fear in saying yes. But I imagine that when you made a decision and you said, you know, stuff it, I'm going to do it. Like, what was that like?
Quite liberating. Like, just being able to let go of you know, what I was holding on to, which is, you know, fear of embarrassment, fear of failure, those kinds of things. Yeah, it's just liberating. Like, like after I said yes, like I felt like I could conquer whatever, you know. Like, that was my biggest thing. Yeah, just liberating. That was the feeling.
Yeah, that's real cool. I want to drag that into like a more of a social construct. Like, I know that you have been actively involved in this community on a leadership role. Like, you're definitely seen as a community leader in Whānau in the wider rohe. I guess are there elements, those same elements in regards to you know, taking a leadership role in this community in your iwi, in regards to embarrassment or what people think? Like, how does that encroach on the mind? Like, what's your process when you go through those moments and you have to, you know, I guess confront an issue or you know, I guess put yourself out there and be vulnerable? Like, what's going through your mind then, and how do you overcome that?
Man, that's a very good question, Caleb, and I'm glad you asked that. I don't have an answer right now. I'm trying to formulate one in my mind quickly. No, yeah, it's the same thing. Like, when you take up any kind of role that has a leadership part to it, you know, you're basically putting yourself, you know, out in front of everyone again, and it's the same thing. Like I feel a huge depth of responsibility, and you know, that I don't want to disappoint anybody. And it is the same thing as you know, accepting that fight. Like, you don't want to disappoint. You want to do the job justice. You want to make people proud, and not just the people that that are invested in whatever the kaupapa it is, but you know, your own whānau, your tupuna that have gone by, all of those things. So it is exactly the same. Like, that's the same feeling. And once again, like, just like with the boxing match, you know, I think we throw the word leadership around a lot, and it's not something that I'm actively out there trying to seek. But you know, for me, like, any leadership role that I've ever had, I say that my role is not to be a rangatira. My role is to be a servant, and any of those roles that I get pushed into, I treat it as like I'm a servant. Like, my role is to serve, you know, this whatever the position is, or the responsibility, or the people that that I'm responsible to. My job is to serve them.
I guess, like, just observing as a friend of yours, like, I've never, obviously you don't claim titles or anything like that, but I am the last Kina Karver. Sorry, I stepped on your toes there. I humbly apologise to
That's all right.
Kina King.
We'll let it slide.
But I guess that's the cool thing about you, is, like, you know, servant leadership is that that mana that you have, when you're out there in the community. It doesn't need a title. Like, it's recognised as, you know, that you have the heart of the community, and that's why you do what you do, is to serve others. And for me, those are the most effective leaders, I guess, in history, and even today in our community, is to see those that carry the community or the people in their hearts. That's really cool. I just want to talk about, like, I guess, you know, you got all this pressure. Well, I don't know if you feel the pressure, or if it's on your shoulders very much, but, like, what are the things that ground you? What are the things that protect you? It could be, you know, protect your spirit, or your heart, or your mind, because I guess there are times where you do have to, like, refresh and reset, and many times, if we just keep on, like, you know, bashing away at our responsibilities, we can burn out pretty easily. We can you know, hit a pretty destructive path. Like, what are the things for you to get you back on your feet, or just to reset?
Or, like, every day, cliche as, but whānau, you know, you go home to your whānau, and you're not anything. You're papa, you're you know, your partner, you're the dog scratcher, you're the go outside and pick up the poo guy. So you know, that's humbling. You get to go home every day and be reminded of you. Not that you're you know, you're not valued, because you are valued when you get home, but you know, it's just a humbling thing to every day you go home, and you're reminded that, you know, like, I'm just me. Like, I'm not anything, you know, not anything greater than anybody else in our house. I go see my mum, I still get a growling. And I love that. Like, just remind you, you know, don't let yourself get ahead of yourself. Don't get too big ahead. Whatever you're doing, whatever you're involved in. And whānau have a really funny way of making sure that you stay humble. And you know, sitting alongside that, you know, like, I know there's the whole tall poppy syndrome stuff, and you know, like, culturally, you know, I grew up being taught that, you know, you know, the e hara te kumara te kōrero mo tōna kereke. reka. The kumara doesn't speak of its own sweetness. And that's, a thing that we are brought up being told, and we grow up knowing that. But at the same time, you need to there needs to be a way to also speak about your, about success and tell our stories. So it's a balancing act, and I think balance is probably the key word, across everything. If you're unbalanced somewhere, you need to figure out a way to balance that out.
Yeah, for sure. We've just been doing a story on the Robert Bartley bus, and the saying on the back there is that no one's bigger than the broom, and so it doesn't matter how high you get, I guess, in business or in life, like the broom's always waiting there for you to sweep up anything that needs to be cleaned. That's really cool. I guess we here at Impact Collective, we focus on the 17 SDGs, which are the Sustainable Development Goals that have been, they've come out of the United Nations. Kōrero, and I know that you're tangata whenua, you love to dive, you love to go out into the bush, and talking about things that reset you. Just tell us why that is so important to you, and how does that, I guess, replenish your wairua?
I reckon now is like we're in a time of humanity where there's so much noise. Humanity has never had as much access to knowledge as we do today, which is great. But it's distracting too. I mean, you could dive down rabbit holes upon rabbit holes upon rabbit holes about anything in the world, and to me that stuff is quite noisy, and the way that I reset, the way that I recharge, is to get away from the noise. So a couple of things that I do is to try and get out into the environment. On the daily, I like to be near water, whether that be out at the moana or by our awa, but somewhere where I'm just kind of disconnected from daily life and all of the noise. But my ultimate for me is being in the water. So I'm an avid diver. It's a prerequisite to being the last Kina Karver, so I like to get in the water, and when I'm in the water, it's like sense deprivation. Like when you're under the water, there's like, you don't hear any noise from outside. All you can hear is what's under the water. All you can see is what's under the water. All you can feel is the water, and that just takes me back to almost like almost, I guess, like being back in the womb kind of thing. Like you're completely removed. There's a sense of peace that I get under the water that I can't get anywhere else. And aside from that, there's heaps of kina under the water, and I love kina, so it's a good place for me to be. So I get a lot of clarity. I get to be with myself and be with my thoughts, and I get to cut off the rest of the world or any of the hara that that I have out in the noisy big wide world. I'm cut off from that when I'm in the water. So that's what being in the water does for me. That's what being in nature does for me. But aside from that, kai gathering as a whole, like I just feel good that I can go out and gather kai and bring that back to those of my whānau that aren't fortunate enough to be able to gather it themselves or aren't able. I get a sense of value from being able to do that.
That's so cool. I guess, being a part of the moana and the ngahere, it's that, like, it sounds like a spiritual connection that you have with the land and the water. And I guess, that'd be cool to talk about that too. I guess your like, what is it that you do for your wairua, your spirit? How does Te Ao Māori, like that lifestyle, kind of live out through your life? Like, can you just kind of tell me about, you know, that kind of worldview, or, you know, your approach to that?
Yeah, I think for te ao Māori, like our people, when they came here to Aotearoa, or, you know, anywhere in the Pacific that they travelled, they had to be in tune with the environment. So I guess like me getting out into the ngāere, or getting out into the moana, or just being outside, it's a reawakening of sorts of, you know, what our old people had to do. They had to be in tune with the environment out of necessity. If they were out of tune, they died. You know, like if they were not in tune with the moana when they were travelling across the seas, you know, they potentially died. If they weren't in tune with the seasons and the maramataka and how to grow and cultivate kai at the right times, you know, the people died, people perished. So it was a necessity for our people to be fully in tune and to understand the environment that they lived in. And it's not as much of the case today, not in the way that our old people had it. But I know for me, being back out there, it kind of takes me back to the, you know, the roots of how our tupuna needed to be in order to thrive, in order to live, in order to flourish and sustain not only themselves individually, but the whānau, the apu, the iwi, all those things.
It's quite interesting, like in these times, like this landscape. I've had a few conversations with people about, you know, getting back to basics, you know, returning back to indigenous ways. And I guess you see that pattern happen quite a lot around the world. Like, you know, we realise how, you know, bad we're treating our planet, I guess, to a, you know, really bad degree. And it's almost like there must be something more, or in this case less, like, you know, kind of pulling back a bit from the luxuries or the convenience of modern day society. Do you feel that kind of pull within yourself, or have you had conversations with others around, you know, I guess Papatūānuku kind of calling us back home, like that kind of thought pattern stringing through society? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, fully. There's like a resurgence of you know, going back to basics, like you say. There's a massive undercurrent of a younger generation that's coming up, and they are environmentally minded. They are considerate, you know, considerate of not just people, but of Papatūānuku, of the moana, of all of these things, because we're starting to understand or acquaint ourselves with the knowledge that, you know, if we want it to thrive as humans, you know, our Papatūānuku needs to thrive as well. Like, without Papatūānuku, we're done for. And it reminds me of a okatoki that I'll try and remember it because it's a bit of a long one, but koro tau rangiti I tau pārai, he said, trying to remember it now. Mai I te urunga mai o ngai tātou te iwi Māori, ki roto ngā kauai mā tauranga o tauiwi, I nā ono tia te peka Māori ki te rākau rāwao, e rereke tōna ua me te rongo o tōna kiko. Koina te oki ki ngā, ki te paiaka a kuima a koroma. And yeah, I'll leave it at that now. And what that means is he was basically saying, you know, it's been since the time that Māori have been immersed in the knowledge streams of tauiwi, of foreigners. We've tried to graft the Māori branch to a tree that's not Māori, and the result of which is, you know, it's created fruits that are sour, that are unpalatable, and this is the motivating factor for us to return to the stock root of our ancestors, go back to basics, basically, I think it's a really flash way of saying, there's ways and there's ways. And the way that we're doing things today is unsustainable. It's not right, and I think people are tightening on to that fact and realising, some of these ways that have been deemed primitive or uncivilized are actually what we need to return to.
So good. One of the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals that we're focusing on this week is zero hunger, and it's quite interesting. I've been talking to TCLT and talking about ngāhere being able to provide our salads, our kai, and the same thing with the moana and the awa. Like, everything is there for us to basically abolish like zero hunger, but it's like you said, it's returning back to the stock root of where we come from, of those old traditional practices that cultivate pretty much what we need. Like what we need is there in the land. But I think we've been so I don't like using the word colonized, but almost like comfortable in the way that you're describing, in that way, that we've lost the art of self-preservation or sustainability, or providing for our whānau. So that's a real interesting thought there, Jay. I want to kind of bring that, because we've talked about, I guess, you personally, but I know that you have a really great perspective of our community as a whole, and I guess you've seen the struggle, you've seen issues that Whanganui in the wider regions have experienced or have gone through or are going through at the moment. Like, what's your kind of perspective on our community? What are the issues or the struggles that you see that are most prevalent? And what do you think, from your experience and your career, is the, I know it's such a broad question and we can't have a specific answer to it, but like, what are some aspects, I guess, that could create a more community well-being?
That's a big question.
Yeah, and don't have to tackle the whole thing. Could just be like on a specific area, because I know it's vast and broad. Just anything that comes out.
I think we have to get away from trying to homogenize society. Like, society is not a one size fits all type of thing. For instance, and I can speak on this because I'm Māori, the system was not set up for us. It's like the wakatoki of korotau's. We're trying to graft the branch of a particular tree to the wrong kind of tree. There's ways and there's ways, and sometimes trying to squeeze the square peg into the round hole doesn't work. Sometimes it shaves off the edges, and sometimes the edges are what make us unique. And I think we have to be cognizant of that fact and understand that being culturally diverse isn't a bad thing. Being culturally diverse is a great thing. We should celebrate our diversity in all ways, shapes and forms. So if to try and answer that huge question that you just asked me, basically, we shouldn't be trying to homogenize our society. We should be trying to have all our varieties and our diversities be catered for.
Do you think, this is quite a big question too, but do you think Aotearoa is doing a better job today than obviously it has been in the past, but do you think that's changing in this current landscape, or do you think, I know there's a lot of space or room, or we've got a lot of space to grow, but do you think it's improving, or do you think it's not?
I think the short answer for me is yes, it's improving. but there's always room for improvement. Always. Yep. There's always room to learn. There's always room to grow. There's always room to develop. So in many ways, though, like technology, for instance, like technology makes everything so much easier for us. But in making things more convenient and making things more easier, sometimes we lose the lesson of struggle. Our old people today, my kids can walk into the kitchen, they can turn on the tap, and there's water there, and if they want hot water, boom, turn on the other tap, hot water, easy. My tupuna, they had to go down to the awa, and they had to gather water in a calabash in the hue, and bring that up if they wanted water. They had to chop up some wood, build a fire, and heat up the water if they wanted hot water. And there's lessons in that, like there's you come to appreciate how important a fire is. You come to appreciate how important it is to be close to a clean source of water. And my tamariki, not to down them or anything, but they haven't been exposed to that struggle or to that life lesson, and so they lose the lesson.
Yeah, not only that, like it was everyone working together as well. Like people had their assigned jobs and tasks to do, and it was like harmoniously kind of serving. Like you when you approach a leadership position, or you act from a place of service, and I think everyone is at the betterment of that attitude. And I feel like that, I guess, with the rise of technology, say, or just convenience with the services that we have, we isolate ourselves more, and independence grows, which we don't have the joy of depending on other people to be able to I guess help us, because I think asking for help is a huge strength, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and so I think that's a thing that we're struggling in our society, is the courage to maybe ask for help, or maybe even the courage to serve. I don't know.
No, it's great. Like just thinking about that whole communal living stuff, like the lessons that are taught there, that like now we live in our little box by ourselves, our own little whānau. We're quite lucky now. We've got a cool neighbour next door, new neighbour, and we get on really well, and we help each other out and all those kinds of things. But we've lived in that house for going on 20 years, and that's the first time we've had a neighbour that we've we go and visit each other and make sure each other is okay, and those kinds of things, and that's how it should always be. I had a mate, a bro, we on another podcast, and he had come from Samoa, and he said the biggest thing that he had to get used to when he moved here to Aotearoa was fences. He said back home on the islands, we don't have fences. Like everyone just lives, we all share all the same land, and we go play on each other's land, and there's no such thing as a fence. That's how we grew up, just being able to play rugby or whatever in each other's yards. They didn't even have yards. It was just there's a house here and a house here, and there's no boundaries. And when he came to Aotearoa, he couldn't get over the fences. Like it's like boundaries to being able to do what we do as humans, which is to communicate and spend time together. Yeah.
It's almost like having that childlike faith, like just being a child amongst society, and being like optimistic about our humanity, and not having that kind of like separation. And like I love the description on the Thrive website about you giving unconditional love and receiving unconditional love, and being a conduit for that. And I think if society had that perspective or that kind of outlook on life, I mean, not saying that they don't, but like man, imagine what say Whanganui would be like. I think there's elements of Whanganui that really shine that pretty well, but I believe we can always improve, and get better as a community. bro, awesome kōrero. We've nearly hit like 45 minutes, and I don't want to keep you longer than that. And I think we got some gold out of that. And I just wanted to say thank you for being part of this podcast on the Impact Collective. It's a very exciting journey that we're on. I know you're the Kina King, and I didn't want to end this without, a gift from us. So behind this guitar.
Man, my Kina senses didn't even work
tingling?
this time.
They weren't tingling?
Oh, my man.
Oh no, what is that? Probably excess from the shop.
The funk
no one
from
saw
1,000 Kina.
Yeah. Alright, bro, thank you so much. There's that.
Oh, bro.
What is that? Get off.
Doesn't matter, bro.
Doesn't matter.
It's what's inside that counts.
That's it. And just something else from us. It's got a lot of love hearts and noughts and crosses on there.
Secret love letter.
Yeah, and we're so honoured to have you on this podcast. You've been a massive inspiration to me, to so many in this community, and I just think it's fitting that you're the first to kind of speak on the Impact Collective podcast. Thanks for sharing your knowledge, and I'm sure that a lot of people would have learnt a lot from your kōrero today. So yeah, chop with it.
Thank you for having me, bro, and proud to be the first one.
Yeah,
that's cool. I was your first.
I was really nervous. I didn't know what to